What is up, everybody? Welcome to another LineupHQ breakdown video here on RotoGrinders. Happy to be with you. Usually we're talking Sunday Night Football in these videos, but we've got a 3-game Christmas Day slate for you, so we'll just break down the whole Sunday slate here in this little video. We're offering these now for free on our YouTube channel as well, so if you're checking us out for the first time, welcome. Merry Christmas to everybody, and I'm Justin Van Zuiden, STL Cardinals 84. I have Tim Buell alongside me. Tim, happy holidays. How you doing?
Good, Justin. Happy holidays to you, and happy holidays to all of our listeners. It's a great weekend for sports. It's definitely busy time with family, but also gotta sneak in that some sports action in there also. So I'm looking forward to today and tomorrow also.
Yeah, big NBA slate, always on Christmas as well, so should be plenty of sports to keep us occupied here on this holiday. And as I mentioned, they're doing the main NFL slate today as we're taping this on Saturday, but 3 games for us on Sunday. Offers a fairly interesting slate, I would say, for Sunday. So we can kind of go through a build. I've got DraftKings up. We'll get that up on the screen share here to start. And we can touch on FanDuel as well. Usually we try to knock these out in about a half an hour or so. And with 3 games, that should be pretty easy to do. And what's weird is on the Saturday slate, we have all sorts of these cold weather games. 10 degrees, negative wind chills, problems everywhere with weather. But we don't really have that on the Sunday slate. It's we got a game in Miami, we got a game in LA, we got a game in Arizona, so shouldn't have to worry too much about the weather. We've got a 50-point total in Miami, Denver and LA, a low total because both of those offenses are terrible, and then a fairly low total in Arizona as well because we have 3 of these 6 teams basically have been rolling backup quarterbacks of late. Seems like Russell Wilson might play for Denver, but you can argue as to whether or not he is backup quality these days too. So just in general, before we can break it down by position here, but how do you see these games playing out? I mean, it seems to me like the Miami game will be the one that gets targeted the most heavily for sure.
Yeah, so I definitely want exposure to this game. I want a lot of exposure to this game. How I want to do that, I'm not exactly sure because, it's like Green Bay's so bad against the rush. Like, I want to play Mostert, but now he's priced up. And then, of course, we have the whole Tyreek issue as he's the best skill position player on the slate. And he's also going to be the highest owned, and I think he's the most expensive. So, I think the Tua Tyreek combo is going to be popular, and it could very well end up being the optimal play. But it's tough because I'd rather attack Green Bay on the ground. So I don't know. I mean, it's tough because I'm kind of considering Aaron Rodgers as they have a 23-point total, which is right. It's tied for second on the whole slate. So I'm kind of thinking Um, Aaron Rodgers or Tua, I think, would be my favorite of the slate.
Yeah, and that's going to be pretty common, I think. Rodgers is pretty affordable here. We look on DraftKings at 5,900. Tua is 7K, but of course, back at home, he does have the highest projection. We've got Brady in there as well, and then we've got Wilson, Mayfield, McSorley kind of bringing up the rear. And we can mess with how this works in a build salary-wise, but I'm kind of with you on Tua and Rodgers. What do you make of Brady? What do we make of Tampa Bay here? Obviously, an offense that has disappointed over the course of the year, and where do we see the Bucks falling here on this slate?
Certainly can see getting exposure to them, but not a ton. We know that Brady loves to throw, but I don't really have much faith in him at this point to really like break a slate, if that makes sense. Like I could see him having success, but not necessarily a huge ceiling. So he's kind of tough for me. I think, honestly, I mean, I have no interest in Wilson, no interest in McSorley, no interest in Mayfield. So then I think that I would say Aaron Rodgers is 1, Tua 2, Brady 3 for me in terms of my interest level.
I've got no problems with that approach myself. Probably how I would rank them as well. Let's see. Let's throw Rodgers in this build and just see as far as salary goes how it works. If we end up with enough salary to get up to Tua, maybe we can pivot up. But as we kind of just start to work through a build here, I like to start with the cheapest guys at the respective positions that are viable. So we'll go with Rodgers here, and then we'll move on to running back. You mentioned Green Bay has struggled against the run. You've got Mostert. James Conner has basically been playing every snap for Arizona. You've got the Green Bay guys. Sounds like Jones and Dillon are both going to be cleared to go this week. You've got Fournette back in the mix for Tampa Bay. Cam Akers has been getting more work of late. He's really cheap on DraftKings at 5,200. How do you see prioritizing the running back plays here?
Well, if we're gonna put Aaron Rodgers in, I'm definitely putting Mostert in, like 100% that team. Let's start by getting exposure to that Green Bay rush defense, which I think can be exploited pretty easily in this matchup. So I think Mostert would be my next guy in. Then we could do. I don't mind Akers, but I think I'd prefer. I think I'd prefer maybe even Aaron Jones. I got to see how many like wide receivers we want from Green Bay. So, but I mean, just don't rule out doing an Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers type build, which I don't think is going to be that high owned, even though I know that they're both coming in with that, a lot of aggregate ownership, but playing them together might, I don't know how many people are going to play those two together. So it's just an idea for GPPs. I wouldn't play Rodgers and Dillon together though.
Yeah, I won't be doing that either. I'm going to plug Connor into this lineup for now. He projects as our highest fantasy point running back. He's pretty safe for sure. I mean, given that obviously they're working on a third string quarterback, but you look since he came back, he's had 16, 15, 25, 14, 21 carries. He's getting some work in the passing game as well. So that prevents us from having to use Jones and Jones and Rodgers together. Certainly think it's fine. But we'll put Connor in this build for now. Again, go with the cheaper player. I just think the way he's been playing, super steady, we'll throw him in there for now. So, all right. So let's move to receiver. We won't fill out all the spots in this lineup, but we'll fill out we'll fill out two of the receivers here and see where we get. But if we sort by projected ownership, you mentioned it, Hill, the highest price guy and also the highest owned guy, but he's been pretty tough to stop. And you look at that kind of ridiculous target share on a weekly basis, it's hard to pass on that. So you think we need to find a way to get Hill in our lineups here?
What I would do if I was making this team is first I'd try to find kind of like which cheap Packer wide receiver to go to. Like, do I want Alan Lazard? Do I want Christian Watson? Something like that. See how much salary I have left, and then kind of, because I want someone to be paired with Rodgers. Like I don't want to just play him naked. So I think that maybe let's plug in Watson. And then see let's put in Hill, and let's see if that's even possible.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is. It gives you 4,000 per player. You're not spending at tight end. You get a defense, right? Tampa's defense is cheap. Plug a cheap tight end in there. Do you have a preference? Like, tight end is so bad in the NFL these days. Here are our options. The rosterable options are Dulcich, Higbee, Cade Otton, Tanyan, Gesicki, who went like 3 weeks without a catch. He's like 14% owned. Trey McBride with a third string quarterback at the helm for Arizona. All these guys are between 3,200 and 4,100. They've basically either got low target share or a crappy quarterback throwing to them. So blind darts, I guess. Dulcich and Higbee are the highest projected, but frankly, it's going to come down to if one of these guys scores a touchdown, they're probably going to be the highest scoring at the position. That's what a tight end slate is these days. So do you have a hot take here?
I don't want to spend that much on Higbee. I'd rather spend, if I'm going to go on the higher tier, I'd rather go with Dulcich. I also don't mind Cade Otton. I think it would come down to Cade Otton or Dulcich for me. You could always, with this team, double stack with Tanyan too. That's another interesting way to go about it. I mean, listen to what Vegas is telling us with this game. This game is going to be the game that's going to be. It's the highest total game. The other two games don't even have a total at 40, and this one's pushing 50. So if you find yourself like getting more and more pieces of this game, I really have no issue with it. It's the best game on the slate.
Yeah, I've got no problem with it too, and I think it's doable. So you mentioned, it is tough to fit Hill into a lineup, but we got 4,600 for two spots, and you can use that to try to finagle through, a cheap wide receiver. You got a Tutu Atwell is going to get some ownership. If Sutton goes, he'll get some ownership. Judy isn't all that expensive. Van Jefferson. Somebody's got to catch some balls for the Rams, so you can roll these guys in there. I think Atwell's probably going to be the chalk, and then you can round out your lineup that way. So I guess just go ahead.
Yeah, if you find yourself kind of like not liking what you have left over with that build that we just had, don't go. I mean, I wouldn't be scared on a 3-game slate to go down to Jalen Waddle instead of Hill. It's not. I know that there's a big difference in terms of production, but Waddle is a very, very, very strong play. So it's not like it's certainly you're going to get a lot of leverage on the field too. So if you really don't like, leaving yourself only like $4,600, go down from Hill to Waddle, and you might be able to find another position player that you like.
Yeah, that gives you 5,500, so a little bit more flexibility where maybe you could get a Mike Evans in there as well. All depends, I guess, on how much you feel like you need to prioritize Hill. And frankly, on a 3-game slate at that ownership, there is some leverage in GPPs if Waddle is the guy that at least, matches Hill in terms of production. And that's really all you would need with Waddle being 1,800 cheaper to be able to make that lineup work. So I think it's definitely a viable path for sure. And, another way would be, right, if you don't want to spend up at running back, if you wanted to get Cam Akers in there, all of a sudden that leaves you back at that 5,500 salary as well. So you're going to have to put a punt in your roster that you probably feel uncomfortable with. But it's certainly a strategy that makes sense here in order to get, if you want to get Tyreek in your lineup or you want to get Tua at quarterback, you are going to have to find some value in other spots.
And just keep in mind the Latavius Murray news too. Like I don't know if he's like 100% going to be playing, but that could make a pretty significant difference. I don't know what his practice status has been, but it's something to keep an eye out for sure.
And let me see if I can grab that. And obviously here we're a day in advance of kickoff. So let's see. DNP Thursday due to precautionary reasons with the cold weather, and was back at practice on Friday. It doesnn't say whether it's a full practice or limited, but I would say he's probably more towards the probable side if that designation still exists.
I only knew about the Thursday one where he didn't practice, so I started getting a little bit concerned.
It says that they had to practice on turf on Thursday, so they held him out because they were indoors. So seems like he's a go if if you want to go that route. So I think he's fine there, as well as Akers at the running back spots. All right, I know this is a little bit of a weird slate compared to normal because we're doing this video while these Saturday games are going on. Not sure how many folks are watching us live. A lot of people probably watching us on playback. But if you are watching us live, if you do want to ask a question, you can throw it in the RotoGrinders Discord. We are in the NFL channel, so if you are a premium subscriber, we can prioritize your question. You can put that in just the NFL channel, not the NFL Crunch Time, not the live stream chat, just the NFL channel, and we'll take your questions in there. Or if you are watching us live on YouTube and you have a question, you can throw it in there, and we will grab that here before we wrap it up. So anybody else, not necessarily even in terms of this individual build that we just did on the side there, but any other plays, maybe some of these, cheaper receivers that you're interested in that maybe we haven't talked about yet?
Not a lot. I know that Aaron Rodgers really likes Randall Cobb, but I just know that his target share has not been that good this season, and he was hurt for a lot of the year. And then also some of these Tampa Bay guys like Russell Gage, that to me they're definitely worth being in like a 20 max player pool to get off of some of that Atwell chalk. Like Tutu Atwell is going to be really, really popular because he plays a ton of snaps and he's super, super cheap. That's chalk that is very, very fragile, in my opinion. So if you want to kind of just pivot away from that, I think that makes a lot of sense in a large field setting.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind that in tournaments. And even if, I mean, the Rams, like we say, they got to throw it to somebody. So, yeah, you could go to one of their other secondary guys if you wanted to, or play Akers, and don't play Tutu Atwell. But obviously, a guy that decent point per dollar projection at that price, but pretty low floor as well, given the 36 point total.
I think Van Jefferson's only $4,100, and I think he's going to be lower owned.
Yep,
I'd rather play Van Jefferson, to be honest with you. Just straight up, find the $500. Maybe just pivot away and get to like a cheaper defense or something like that. Like that to me. I mean, I'm not a huge like bet on talent guy, but I just think Van Jefferson's a way more talented receiver. So I'd much rather play him if he's going to be lower owned.
Yeah, and obviously we saw him get the big touchdown in the first game that Baker Mayfield played for the Rams in their come-from-behind win over the Raiders. So we know that potential is there. And he did, again, nobody really did anything but last week, but he did outscore. Atwell had just one catch for 10 yards, and Van Jefferson caught both of his targets last week for 32 yards. It was a game where, I mean, the Rams didn't have the ball very much, and it was cold, and they didn't throw the ball. They only threw it 21 times. So not a whole lot we could take away from that, but I do agree just in general, you'd expect Jefferson to be the better player in the long run. All right, let's pivot over to FanDuel here and see if we can't find any differences in the salaries. Load up the Sunday slate here. So many slates this week, got to scroll down to find it. There we go. We are taping this in the early afternoon hours, kind of while the Saturday games are going on. Looks like the Bills have come from behind to take the lead on the Bears. Bengals blowing out the Patriots. Panthers up 31-7 on the Lions. The Panthers could still win the NFC South.
I know, that's so crazy to me. This is a huge game for the Bucs and Brady tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, if the Bucs lose, they're tied for first place at 6-9, which, assuming the Panthers don't blow a 31-7 lead, which they could. But Foreman having a big game for the Panthers there to give them that 31-7 lead. Let's see, what else do we got? Texans just took the lead on the Titans 10-7, so that's, if you're a Jaguars fan, you'd be rooting for that upset there. Sorry to all the Titans fans up at RotoGrinders headquarters there. It's been a tough second half of the year for them, and of course their quarterback going down is not going to help matters. All right, FanDuel opened up here. Not a whole lot of differences in the pricing at quarterback. It's Tua and then Brady and then Rodgers, just like it was on DK. They're not getting maybe quite as much of a discount on Rodgers. Let's just see where it goes with him in there. Like if we tried to build, what I like to do is let's build the same type of lineup we had on DraftKings. Connor, Mostert, Hill. We had Watson in there, and he's more expensive on FanDuel. You get your cheap tight end in there. You get your defense in there. I think I had Tampa on the last one. So you got $5,200 per player, and you're basically at the same. Atwell's $5,400. You're going to see a similar type of lineup. I think there's not a whole lot of pricing differences. Like Hill is $9,000 on DraftKings. He's $9,200 on FanDuel. Outside of Watson maybe being a little bit more expensive, like Watson and Lazard, there is a pretty big price gap between them. Suppose that'd be one conversation to have. Like, do you prefer Lazard then on FanDuel where there's a $1,300 pricing gap?
Yeah, I think that's completely fine. I'm not completely sold Watson Lazard either way. So if I can get some savings, I'm completely fine with going Lazard.
Yeah, and then that
Um,
opens up a little bit more salary for you to sneak in those last couple of spots. Again, maybe you can get an Evans in there. You'd have to punt that final spot, but that does tend to work pretty well.
yeah,
Anything else you see as far as differences on FanDuel and DraftKings? Really not a whole lot.
not a whole lot. It seems like you can build, like, if you want to go a certain way, you can build it on both sites. Mostert seems a little bit more expensive on FanDuel, but I still think it's an excellent matchup. And I'd much rather get up to him. Like, I prefer him over Murray. I prefer him over the cheaper Cam Akers. I prefer him over Rashad White, AJ Dillon. So I mean, it's like I see no reason not to roster him. So I kind of like the same build. Same things apply, really.
Yeah, it works out pretty well for sure. And I think that's kind of how I will approach it as well. Again, I'm under the field on. You can see in these builds, we really didn't put a lot of Tampa guys in there. I mean, look, it's just not there for Brady anymore, and I think in general this team is still a little bit overrated. I mean, look at the game logs. Like the last time Tom Brady put up 20 points was October 2nd. It's like week 4 or 5, one of those weeks. But since then, like 18, 12, 18, 18, 17, 15, 17, 12, 14, like Brady just hasn't been putting up the numbers, and this offense has really struggled. And this is going to be a game where Arizona's going to give the ball to James Conner. They're not going to want to rely on McSorley to make plays. They're going to try to slow the game down. And, I just don't see this being a ceiling spot for Brady. He really hasn't had one all year since that game against the Chiefs where, he threw it 52 times. And he's even had games in there, 58 pass attempts here, 54 here, 55 here. Because they've been falling behind in games, but he's been turning the ball over and is just not the same guy anymore. So I am definitely underweight on Tampa offensively. It's even more relevant if you're playing like the Showdown slate for just that game tomorrow night. But, I don't mind Fournette, but it's just tough to bank on the Tampa offense these days. And I think they're going to be overowned here.
Right. I'll say that if Brady's really going to be 12% higher owned than Aaron Rodgers or 3% lower than Tua, then no thanks. Like if our current projected ownership for FanDuel quarterbacks holds true, then I have really no interest in Brady. I'd rather get some leverage on the field and go with Aaron Rodgers. I'd rather pay up for a way better spot with Tua. So for me, like if Rodgers was going to be 27% owned and Brady was going to be 15 or 13 or something like that, I'd have a lot more interest. But that much of the field is going to have Brady, then I'm going to take a very, very, very bearish stand on him.
All right. With that, I think we've kind of covered everything. Don't see any questions. Again, most weeks this won't be taped at the same time as another big NFL slate, but with the holiday and all that, had to overlap here this week. So, again, we'll be bringing you these videos on the YouTube channel going forward, and we'll take your questions in the chat and in the RotoGrinders Discord if you're a premium subscriber. So, Tim, anything else for you before we get out of here?
Nope. Happy holidays, everybody. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, and happy holidays as well. Enjoy the football family. Big NBA slate on Sunday as well. Thanks to Steve for producing behind the scenes for us on a holiday weekend. Always appreciate his help. And we hope you all have a nice holiday weekend, everybody. Take care. For Tim, I'm Justin. We'll see you later, everybody.